everyone, welcome back to another video, and if you are new to the channel, my name is Pipa and I am an artist who has worked predominantly with faces and portraiture pretty much my entire life as an artist. And over the years I've picked up some tips and tricks, namely things and exercises that I have found have improved my skills in drawing faces and portraiture a lot. And the proof is honestly in the pudding, because if you look at these pictures of what my drawn faces and portraits look like right at the beginning of when I started drawing, and just over the years, you can see that there's been a very steady improvement in the way that I draw faces and portraiture. And this is honestly down to exercises and practice that I've put into my art, pretty much. Because unfortunately, with drawing and learning how to draw, there is no one size fits all thing that you can do that'll make you just good at art. It is a constant practice that you have to put in yourself in order to improve your skills. And sometimes it can be a little bit scary and a bit confusing about where to start. And if that's the case for you, I actually wrote a book. Which is wild to say, but I have a book that's coming out next month and it's called Draw Amazing Faces. It's coming out to a bookstore near you, but it is up for pre-order at the moment, and it is basically a in-depth full book on everything you need to know to draw faces, get good at portraiture. It is very beginner friendly. It has tutorials, step-by-step processes. It goes into rendering, it goes into coloring, it goes into everything that you may need to know so that you can draw up your own faces and your own characters from imagination at some point. So I am really, really proud of this book. I've been working on it for like over a year, and you'll be hearing me talk about it nonstop for the next few months. But yeah, if you'd like to grab yourself a copy, make sure to do so at the link in my description. And if you do get a pre-order copy of the book, make sure to enter a prize giveaway that we are running at the moment with my publisher. So if you enter your pre-order details at the form link in the description as well, you can enter a prize draw to win an art print and a sticker sheet by yours truly. I'm so excited about this book. But the thing is, even with all the knowledge that you might get from a book like this, further practice and development of your skills is still imperative in order for you to improve, because like I said, there's no magic trick to this. So yeah, I thought I'd do a video with 5 different exercises that not only I do on a semi-regular basis, but that I really recommend any artist out there does if you are getting into drawing faces and looking to improve your skills in that. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So the first tip that I recommend is to actually not just look at images and references, but to study them. What I mean by that is taking reference images like some of the ones that I'm going to be showing you here and using them with intent instead of just copying them. So using references is not a bad thing, actually, regardless of what you might have heard. It is actually an incredibly important tool for learning and practicing your art. In order to know how to draw a thing, you kind of have to look at the thing and study it first. And that applies to portraits too. But instead of just attempting to copy them or trace over an image, maybe consider studying with intent. Try to look at the reference images that you have and even draw over them with your study. So highlight shape language, structural lines, sketch out your guidelines to see where different facial features align with each other. Study the proportions of your image and angles, etc. So as you can see here in the first example, I was studying the distances between different facial features. And it's just all about studying the face and kind of seeing what similarities and patterns you can find within the structures of the face. In the second example here, you can see that I'm using more shape language studying. So I'm kind of just outlining the general shape of each feature and then actually separating the face into 3 parts, as you can see here. And you can see which different features fall into each third of the face. You can also look at it from more of a geometric angle. So as you can see here, I'm using more, straight lines and geometric shapes and kind of seeing how all these angles end up creating the shapes of the face if you're more of a mathematical type of person and likes to look at things like that. And yet again, kind of separating the face into 3 parts, and you can kind of study the face like that. This is also incredibly helpful for studying facial proportions at different angles. So if you're someone that struggles with drawing faces at odd angles, so like from an eagle's eye view or a worm's eye view, this is very helpful because you get to see the proportions in a simplified manner, and you can kind of see how they squish, how they elongate to portray this perspective. You've probably seen this example lots of times, but using this to actually draw out the face in profile, because there's a lot of really yummy angles and shapes when the face is in profile. So you can kind of see, all the parallel lines on the face and how you can kind of use all of these rules when you're drawing out your own faces in the future. So yeah, just take a bunch of different reference images, do some studies like this, and see what kind of patterns and what kind of shapes you can take out from each reference image, because all of these little things that you notice in your studies are actually going to create this sort of mental library for any future portraits that you draw. And then, as you can see here, I'm using these references to render out a study, and I'm using a lot of the things that I noticed in my study that I was drawing on top of the image to sketch out the face next to it. So taking the things that I learned while I was studying the face and then using those patterns and those quote unquote rules that I found within the face to then do a study of the reference image. And this is a technique that I use a lot, especially when I'm feeling a little bit rusty within drawing portraits, or when I'm feeling a little bit of an art block. It's just a really great way to get back to looking at things with an artistic point of view or an artist's eye, and just kind of looking at things with intent of drawing, if that makes any sense. As you can see here, for the two examples of the face in perspective, these studies are incredibly important because the face looks so different from different angles. So if you're looking at a face from above, all the features are going to be really concentrated at the bottom of the face. Whereas if you're looking at a face from below, all of the features are going to be really squished up together and closer to the top of the face. So the forehead's going to appear smaller and the chin area is going to be larger and thicker at the base, just due to perspective. So all these things you will start noticing once you do studies of the face at completely different angles. In the same kind of vein, the face looks completely different in profile, and all the features do as well. So it is important to do studies at extreme angles like this, because you have to basically relearn how to draw features in a completely different shape and a completely different angle. And of course, following all of these little rules and, parallel lines and patterns that you notice in your study is going to help you figure that out and be able to draw out the face with correct proportions. And over time, you'll build up that mental library, like I mentioned. The second thing that I wanted to mention is drawing from life, and I will never shut up about life drawing. I will forever be a huge advocate for life drawing. Drawing from life is instrumental for any artist, whether you draw people, animals, landscapes, anything. But doing life drawing doesn't mean you need to dive straight into going to a nude life drawing class and draw a naked model. I love going to coffee shops or parks and drawing people I see. This is a step up from drawing from home, but it's still a step below drawing a nude model in a class with lots of people. It is also a bit more of a challenge from drawing still images and references, because whereas in a reference image the model is stood completely still for however long you want, in public people are moving and talking and shifting around, so you have first to be fast and creative with the way that you jot down people's features. This is especially great for drawing the face and the head from all kinds of angles, because obviously people are sat in completely different ways and in completely different angles from where you're sitting, and you also don't have as much control over that. It's definitely a challenge, but it's an amazing exercise to do regularly to loosen up your sketching of the face. I do this a lot, especially if I'm just out for a coffee. I always take a sketchbook with me and do some really quick studies of people. And again, you don't have to make perfect drawings and incredibly realistic renders of people that you're seeing, because they're going to be moving, like I said. So it's just an exercise to get you jotting down shapes of the face really fast and making sure that you are getting down the important parts of the face as fast as possible. This exercise is amazing for just understanding the shapes of the face and angles of the face as well. If this is still a bit too much for you, I highly recommend trying life drawing at home from the comfort of your own house. So I use this resource called lineofaction.com. It's a completely free website where you can create your own life drawing sessions by picking out what you want to draw and for how long and how many times. I've been using this website for over 7 years now, and it's an amazing resource for any artist out there. So you just pick out what you'd like references for, and then you can get really specific with it, especially with facial expressions if you're practicing portraiture, for example. You can then pick if you want it in a class mode or not, and decide how long you want to have each reference shown to you or how long you want each pose for. You can have a lot of control over the kind of class mode if you want to be, held more accountable in terms of how long you're taking for each pose, or you can be as free with it as you'd like and just have them shown to you for however many minutes you want. And then you just click Get Drawing and get started with it. The limited time with each pose forces you to get down the general essence of the face fast and teaches you how to be more gestural with your lines and shapes. Just like I mentioned with the coffee shop sketches, it's just an important technique to develop because it forces your brain to simplify the shapes of the face in your head while you're jotting them down, and then stepping into details and adding more detailed shapes to each feature. And this is just, again, like I always mention, gonna build up this mental library of what the face looks like in a three-dimensional space, and it'll just allow you to be able to draw faces at whatever angles and whatever type of face you want to draw from your own mind. And it's just gonna allow you a lot more freedom with your portraiture. You can see here from my process how I start with big shapes and placements first. So I quickly map out the outside shapes of the face and then go inwards and map those out next. So I add in the general shapes of the features so that I can see that they are in the correct places in relation to each other. And once I'm happy with the general shapes and the placements of my features, then I go in and add any details. And it's totally okay to take longer to do your drawings at first and then shorten the time as you get better at this and, create more of a challenge for yourself. But yeah, you don't have to do a class mode. You can always just have the image shown to you for as long as it takes you to draw it. Again, if you'd like to create more of a challenge for yourself, you can always tailor the class mode to whatever skill level you're at. And this is not an advert, by the way. I genuinely am just a huge fan of Line of Action. I have always been a fan of them, and I will continue to advocate for them because they are just an incredibly helpful free resource for artists out there. As you can see here, they have an insane library of models, poses, reference images. Honestly, I've been using this for 7 years and I've never had a duplicated image. So that shows you. So as you can see, they have incredible angles for portraits and a lot of different facial expression reference images. They have classes for animals, hands, feet, the body. You don't have to draw it naked. You can actually pick out clothed references as well. So yeah, it's just an incredible tool and I highly recommend it, if you couldn't tell. Next up, I wanted to expand more on timed drawings, but actually mention timed drawings for yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, giving yourself a limited time to do a drawing is a great way to loosen up your sketching and focus on the general big picture rather than the little details. being good at drawing little details is good, but being able to freely place all the features on the face and draw the face and the head accurately and proportionally is a very, very good tool to have. A great way to do this is to set a timer on your phone or your computer and sketch out some portraits within your allotted time. And when I do this exercise, I actually don't use reference. I kind of just draw faces from my own head. And when doing this, I like to start off with some super fast 1 to 2 minute sketches to really warm up my lines and my hand, and then slowly work my way up to 5 and 10 minute sketches. And I'll usually do this if I am about to do, some drawing work or having to do some thumbnails for some drawing and stuff. It's just really good to do warm-up sketches and to really warm up your lines. And this is a great way to do it because you are forced to do some really quick, messy sketches. You know they're not going to be perfect, so you don't become attached to them. You're still practicing that area of your brain and in turn practicing your portraiture. So if you just have like 15-20 minutes in your day to practice your drawing and you want to do something, this is a great way to get a quick little portrait exercise in there. So as you can see here, I always try to focus on proportions, shapes, and feature placement first before going in and adding any sort of detail whatsoever. Doing your sketches with this structure and process will create a shorthand for you whenever you draw faces in the future, and it will greatly improve your proportions. So I feel like I already have a lot of muscle memory with drawing portraits because I've been doing it for a long time. You can kind of see that I quickly put down shapes, and the way that I quickly put down the facial features, it comes quite quick to me, but that might not be the case for everyone. And this obviously just comes with practice and doing these exercises on a regular basis. And like I said, just like any exercise, doing this regularly and over again will cement this process and the way that you look at portraits in your brain. You will definitely start to see a quick improvement in the way that you draw faces, trust me. The next exercise that I wanted to talk about is testing out different processes for drawing the face. Let me explain. So there are actually many different ways to go about drawing a face. Different people prefer different methods, so it's important to try out different methods yourself and see which one you find more comfortable and easy to use. And I'm just going to be showing you in this video 3 more commonly known examples of methods for structuring a portrait. So the first one is guidelines. So you've probably seen this one multiple times if you have, had an interest in drawing at any point in your life. Using guidelines is probably the one you've seen the most, right? It entails using straight lines to map out the head and the face, and using those lines to know where to place the features. This method usually works the best for me and is the one that I use most since it's the one I learned how to use first in my life, and so I just got used to using it. It's easy to memorize the general rules of the facial proportions and then tweak them if necessary depending on the face you're drawing. So obviously these guidelines will change depending on if you're drawing a child's face or an adult's face or the angle that you're looking at the face from. But again, these are just things that you can memorize. Rules such as the ears being the size between the top of the eyes and the bottom of the nose, the eyes being one eye's width apart, etc. There are tons of different ways people like to break down the face with their guidelines, so just try different versions out and see which one you like best. I talk a lot about this in my book and show you how to use this method and the following ones as well in a super simple and easy to memorize way. So as you can see here, I'm just showing you a different example of how I would use guidelines to draw the face at more of a 3/4 angle. The next one is shape language, and this one's kind of similar to guidelines, but if you're more of a shapes person, this is more for you. Some people prefer this method because humans are not made of straight lines. Obviously, we are made of organic shapes and curves, so that method makes more sense to some people. And that's absolutely valid. Using this method, you will typically use shapes like circles and curves and triangles to map out the face. You can use the size and placement of these shapes to then map out where your features would go and how big you want them to be in comparison with each other before then obviously going in and rendering them. So I would say this one is more of an intermediate technique. I feel like people usually step off of the guidelines method and go into this one just because you kind of already need a bit of knowledge of where the facial features go on the face before going in and adding these shapes. But if you're someone that is more, you know, of a visual shapes learner, if that's even a thing, then give this one a try. I find that this one is really helpful when I'm doing really quick sketches because I don't really have the patience to be adding in guidelines, and I kind of already know roughly where I want my features to go. And finally, I wanted to discuss the box method. I also show you how to use this one in my book, along with a huge double spread cheat sheet that you can use as reference. I like using this method mostly for when drawing the face at odd angles or any other angle than straight on or in profile. Using a box is a great way to help you visualize the angles of the faces of the box, and then you can translate that into the proportions of the head and the face. Let me explain. So you kind of have to think of the head as a cube or a box, essentially. And so the front of the face is the one face, the side of the face is another face, etc., etc. I'm showing you here in this example what I mean exactly. You can use the box to help you map out anchor points like the ears, the nose, the mouth, and eyes, and then draw the rest of the head from those points following the shapes of the box. So you can use however many guidelines you want within the faces of the box, but I like to just do a little cross in the middle, and this is how I know where to anchor different parts of my face. So it takes a little bit of practice and maybe using a cheat sheet at first so you can have a little bit of that reference when using this method. But it can be an amazing tool once you get used to it for drawing the head and the face at any angle that you can imagine, especially those really tricky angles like this one I'm showing you here. So like at a 3/4 underneath angle, which is like ridiculous. Like why would anyone want to draw this angle, right? But you might have to at some point, and it's good to have a way to do that from your own brain. So I like to anchor my ears at the cross section of the cross on the side face of the box, like you can see here, and then connecting that with the jawline shapes to the chin, which usually touches the bottom of the front of the box. And then kind of just drawing out the rest of the features according to my reference over here on the left. So I know that the eyes go just above that middle line, the nose and the mouth go in the middle of that bottom section. So you can kind of use these rules that you create for yourself in the way that you use the box method and make it more your own, I guess. So yeah, these are just a few examples. Just have a play around with different methods and see which one you like best. And finally, my last exercise is to vary your references and your faces. The best way to improve at drawing faces is to draw as many faces as you can. I know, terrible news. And I mean as many different kinds of faces as possible. Use resources like Line of Action, Pinterest, Shutterstock, Instagram, whatever, to get references and faces from all walks of life. I mean different ages, different races, genders, angles, lighting, and even different facial features. I've always said in my videos that building up that mental library of references and images in your head is an amazing way to be able to draw portraits and faces from your imagination and at your heart's content, and even creating your own characters, actually. It's a great way to get out of your comfort zone once in a while and draw a face that you typically wouldn't. And once you do, now you have that skill more cemented in your head. So once you draw a particular type of nose, for example, your brain will remember the muscle memory of how you drew that nose at one time, and you'll be able to draw that again more easily next time. So it's just, again, another exercise for you to exercise that creative part of your brain and just doing as much as you can with that brain to hand connection and creating that pathway in your brain, I guess. I'm not a scientist here, but this is how I like to think of it.
So don't be afraid of drawing faces you're not used to. They might actually not even come out that well the first few times. Completely normal, you know, we all have to draw something for the first time at some point. So just try to step out of your comfort zone once in a while with this exercise and draw faces that you've never drawn before, draw features that you've never drawn before, and just see how you fare with them. And if it doesn't come out that great, that's okay. You can just try again another time and you will start to see a big improvement in your variety of facial features. And yeah, if they don't come out that great in the beginning, that's absolutely fine. It just means that you need more practice in that area and allow yourself to open up your horizons and give yourself a wide spectrum of references and faces to draw from. If you don't know where to start, I would recommend going onto my Pinterest page, and I have a lot of boards on there with lots of reference images. Like I have one just for portraits and faces that has tons and tons and tons of reference images you can get started with. I always link my Pinterest down in the description of my videos, so if you'd like just a nice library of portraits and faces to start off with, just head on over there. But you can honestly get references like these from anywhere. Ads that you see on your phone, Instagram, even if that's sometimes like if I'm shopping for something and I like the face of the model, I will take a screenshot and draw it. So honestly, just take inspiration from as many things as you can and allow yourself to just find funky faces that you like and draw them out. Have a crack at it. And yeah, that's it for this last exercise.
And that's pretty much it for today's video, everyone. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new. Let me know which exercises you are the most looking forward to trying out, or if there's any that you already do in your practice. Let me know down there in the comments, as well as any exercises that I have missed out that you find really helpful. Just let everyone else know in the comments, because it's really good to share and trade ideas like this. Again, if you'd like to grab a copy of my book, I would be forever grateful. And I really, really am very proud of this. I think that it will be very helpful for people out there that are looking to get good at drawing faces. Check out all of my socials, my online shop, my commissions page, and just everything that I do down there in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.